Welcome to Empyrion Galactic Survival. I'm your host, ProbabilityOfSuccessZero, and this is episode 16 in our workshop series, where I review creations of my own as well as creations of other users from the Steam Workshop. Now, in this particular episode, we'll be following on from our previous one, where I was presenting the first of two potential replacements to the Mako Space Superiority Fighter. So this is actually the second alternative, which is the Defender. Now, this is slightly different to the Great White, which I reviewed last night. It's a slightly different configuration. The Great White featured 8 railguns and 4 homing missiles, whereas this one will feature 4 homing missiles and 6 plasma cannons. Now, the reason why this is particularly different is because normally I do not favour energy weapons on my fighters. I prefer to go for ballistic style weapons such as chain guns, kind of railguns. This is the first time I'm actually trying to bring through an energy based weapon as a main weapon on my fighters, and the reason I'm doing this is because the plasma cannon offers 2 very unique things. First of all, it does a lot of damage on impact, and the second reason is because it does an area of effect damage as well, which makes it a great weapon for disabling large chunks of a ship. So it's a very similar concept to the rocket pods, except these tend to hit a bit faster. There's a much faster rate of fire with them, and you can get off some nice shots with them. Now, I have tested the weapons on this fighter out, and it does take a few shots to get through some of the heavier armour that you can get, some of the hardened and combat steel and the xenon steel, but it does get through it eventually. Now, if you're going after a ship's engines or you're going after its turrets, the plasma does quite well on those. The reason I've also equipped this with 4 homing missiles is basically for taking out other vehicles like drones. The plasma is a bit too expensive for that. The homers are pretty good. Just kind of like get up near a drone, fire off a couple of homers, and kind of leave them to do their job. Now, let's just go up for a second. So you'll notice the profile of this fighter is very different to the Great White. The Great White is very much a kind of diamond shaped formation. I've actually got it over here, so you can see the wings are sort of like coming back on itself. The Great White's also very flat, incredibly flat, so once it achieves its maximum ceiling, it sort of stays there, whereas this one's sort of got a very kind of a bump at the front where the cockpit is, a bit of a neck followed by a kind of very flat body afterwards. Now, the back of the ship is very different to the Great White again. I've actually built specific engine pods. Now, these chunks at the back of the wings are actually housing a hell of a lot of engines. Now, we've got engines going backwards, we've got engines going forward, we've got engines coming out the sides to add a bit of steering control. There's a couple of engines going up as well. To give the craft a majority of its forward thrust, we've included these 2 large engines, which has become a bit of a standard on most of my larger fighters. And yes, this is a tier 4 fighter once again. I'm not going to go through any tier 3s for the replacement to the Mako. This is a tier 4 vessel straight out the box. You'll notice again I've sort of included the gat gun facing backwards. We've got the gat gun on the back of the Great White as well. This time I've done a bit of a feature. I sort of put the like a cylinder dome that's meant to represent like a radar system on top of the gat gun. I think that looks quite good. It looks particularly good being on the underside as well, because that kind of brings it in line with the rest of the body at the front here. So as you can see, it's sort of like in line with that. We've included 3 undercarriage, so this is just Tech 1 undercarriage at the minute. Pretty much don't need anything more than that. These engine pods at the back sort of provide a majority of stability at the back. We've got some forward facing engines built into the wings. I've sort of gone for these inlets that lead into those engines. We've got some engines on top as well for steering control. The radar dome is being placed at the back, and hopefully that coupled with the chain gun at the back should provide a lot of the protection, I would have thought. So the majority of your damage tends to come from the front and underneath. So as you can see, the underside of the vessel is a lot more pronounced than the top side, so you know, you should be alright for taking shots underneath. So more sensitive systems are obviously located along the top here. I've done a bit of rounding on the cockpit area, so there's just an extra bit of armour on top to provide a bit of protection for the cockpit. The cockpit is slightly different. It's the kind of rounded cockpit for a change instead of the angular one. And you can see we've got this kind of very pronounced nose system going around the front here. And you'll notice if you just go into the cockpit, I've done a bit of detailing on the block as you're looking out here, so it sort of looks like it's incorporated. I actually like this cockpit, it's quite detailed. Gives quite a good field of view as well, unobstructed. So there's that. We've got capacity for 2 passengers. Now this is something I don't normally do. I have included on some of my ships, but this is the first time I've included 2 additional passenger seats. So we've got one just here looking outside and one on the other side as well. So this gives potentially your ability to carry 2 passengers. One can man the gun at the back. Unfortunately, that's it. So you've essentially only got one gunner seat. The other one is just purely a pilot or a basic passenger seat, but you know, it's just there just in case someone wants to come along. We've got a couple of systems built into the cockpit as well. So first of all, we've got a armor locker. That's kind of inset behind these doors for easy access. On the other side, we've got the O2 station behind similar doors, so you can access O2. The ship does come with 12 fuel tanks, 12 O2 tanks, so you should have enough O2 and fuel to keep yourself running. Up here we've got, on both sides, we've got the ammo bay, which is not particularly big, I'll admit. Ignore those numbers at the minute, I've just thrown in some test ammo. That's duplicated onto the other side as well, so that's another 250. Then at the back here we've got some cargo storage, so that's about 1,375. That's duplicated on this side as well, so that's giving you about 2,750 cargo. We do have a third ammo block that is accessible through the control panel, and that one gives you, I believe, 1,000 storage. So that should give you 1,500 ammo storage. It's a particular reason why I've embedded that armor locker. It's just so the ammo base, it's just so it's protected inside the ship. This is a little exposed on the front here, so I just wanted to distribute the ammunition for the vessel quite well. I've done that with the fuel tanks, the O2 tanks, as well as various other systems. So it is split across parts of the ship to make sure you don't take one critical hit that takes out all your internal systems. Now, as usual, in order to get the maneuverability of this ship up to where I want it to be, I've had to include a hell of a lot of RCSs. So we've currently got 68 RCSs in there, as well as a whole load of engines, and to be fair, it's actually pretty maneuverable. It's not quite as manoeuvrable as the Great White, but it's more than manageable. It does exactly what you want it to do. Now, the vessel is particularly expensive. There's a lot of expensive equipment inside this ship at the minute. I've used a lot of tier 2 medium engines and large engines. We've got quite a hell of a lot of engines in there. As I said, 12 fuel tanks, 12 O2 tanks, an O2 station. We've got 6 generators providing quite a healthy amount of power. They again are distributed across the interior of the ship. This is a particularly larger vessel, believe it or not, to the Great White. It's slightly longer in the body, probably slightly longer in the wings. However, in terms of its tonnage, it's actually slightly lighter. Oh no, it's actually more heavy. So this is 103 tons. The Great White over there is about 97, I think. So I've not done much texturing on the exterior hull at the minute. I've sort of gone for this plain grey at the minute, which I'm kind of liking. It sort of works quite well. This particular fighter has been inspired from Independence Day Resurgence. If you haven't seen that film, there's a space fighter in it called the H8 Defender, Global Defender, and this fighter is modelled on that particular design. I've had to take some creative liberties with it, including these very large engine blocks at the back. I've had to do some work with the wings as well, because normally they kind of angle out sort of at a distance, whereas this one sort of goes straight down. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the overall shape and design. I think it is a potentially very good alternative to the Great White. In terms of its maneuverability, let's just take it out, power it up. So yeah, launch is easy, accelerates straight off the bat. Let's bring up the hood, and yeah, from the back it looks pretty good as well. You can see the glow of those engines coming through the chassis, unfortunately. That is something I really want Empyrion to sort out. I've noticed that on a couple of the models now. But as you can see, the manoeuvrability and the handling is pretty good. You can stop pretty quick as well. Up, down's pretty responsive. Left and right is pretty responsive. We can hover on every axis. The only thing that I would say, if I had a complaint, is the roll's a bit not as good as what I would like it. But, you know, you've got enough yaw, enough pitch to compensate for all that. If you know what you're doing, you can fly this around pretty easily. Right, so of course we've got to do the glide test, see how far it flies without power. I sort of know how this is going to perform. It's quite good, to be fair. Not quite as good as the Great White, but still very impressive. So let's just get the run up. Get some height as well, so give it, there you go. So maxing out the power. Level it out. And powering off now. So as you can see, it's already starting to drop. but is gliding quite some distance. We do have a single point of light for this fighter. It's in the front nose cone, embedded. So that's a bit of a letdown with the realism, but hey, it sort of works, so don't complain. I've included the kind of aero spike engine design again, the kind of little cones. These are shorter cones this time on the engine blocks at the back. So if we just turn the engines off, you can see what I mean now. So when you power up, you've got these cones sitting in the middle of the flames. Alright, now in terms of its firepower, those 6 plasma guns, you can imagine doing a bombing run on a target. Yeah, they're going to do a lot of damage. In terms of homing missiles, I don't think I've got any in. Yeah, you know what homing missiles do. And yes, you can fly this pretty easily. Ooh, a bit of a rough landing. And there you go. So that's the Defender. I hope you like that. It's a very capable fighter. Now, at the minute, this is very much left up to you guys. I've sort of got an idea of which one I'm preferring at the minute as a replacement to the Mako. I'll give you a subtle hint, that one. But I did want to present an alternative. Now, I will not introduce, if you guys were to say you like the Defender, I would give it a bit of a texture job before bringing it through into this Series 3 playthrough. So it's really up to you. Do you think this is a good alternative? Now, the one thing I would say that this fighter probably has going for it is the fact it has the capability of being expanded. I've not maxed out CPU usage. If we just look at that quickly, the Great White is currently at about 99.7% of its CPU usage. It just can't max out anymore. This still has over 22,300. So we still got some room to play. So that does give me the potential to kind of reconfigure this fighter a little bit. It has a warp drive, it has a shield generator in there, it's got adequate firepower. I mean, technically speaking, we could add some more firepower onto it. I do know one of my regular commenters is kind of suggested that maybe I should put more GAT guns on my fighters. Now, I personally don't want to do that because they're changing from fighters then to kind of gunships, where you sort of got like autonomous turrets doing the business. The only reason I've got these turrets at the back is to kind of provide my ship with some kind of rear defense, because it's a fighter. All its firepower is meant to be focused at the front. You're kind of going after your target once you pass it. You kind of want something kind of just looking backwards and blasting stuff. So that's why I've got the kind of GAT guns at the back at the minute. So we've still got room to play with this one. It is more expensive, as we've seen with the kind of material costs. I mean, the build time is a lot longer. I think the Great White was something like just under 4 hours. This one has gone over 4 hours 20 minutes. In fact, let's just confirm that. Yeah, so immediately you can see this is going to require a little bit more manufacturing, a lot more materials. Jesus, nearly 2,000 copper. but that is because I've used more expensive materials, and because of that I think I've kind of got a lot the same performance but at material costs, but at a saving to CPU overall. So again, this is potentially something that can be expanded on. So it's really up to you guys. Do you think this fighter is it? Let's just turn everything on. Yeah, in terms of power consumption, let's just get this off the ground. I mean, 64 power. That's on shield recharge as well. I mean, we've got more than an adequate amount of power. I mean, we can run for an hour 27 minutes just at that. The fuel tank at the minute, we just fill that up again. Near enough 100%. You're running at 4 hours 25 minutes, so you got a lot of fuel in the tank. I mean, it's 12 fuel tanks. It's idling on 21% power. Yeah, you've got a lot of capability in this fighter. The one thing I haven't stuck on here just yet is the hood. The hood I can stick on very quickly, it's not a problem. But really, it's up to you. Great White or the Defender? Which one do you want to see in the Series 3 playthrough? So for now guys, I'm going to leave you with that one. There you go, the Defender, everyone. Do you think it's a worthy successor to the Mako, or do you want to see the Mako make a reappearance? Okay guys, that's it for now. I'll catch you in the next episode in a bit.